Hello everyone, welcome to this video tutorial. Today I will be presenting about C# using directive and using static directive. So let's begin with an introduction. So using keyword in C# has three major uses. Firstly, it can be used as a directive where it allows to create an alias for a namespace, imports types defined in other namespaces. Secondly, you can use it as a static directive where it allows to import members of a single class, mainly static members of a type without specifying the type. And thirdly, it can be used as a using statement where it defines a scope where at its end of the block statement an object will be disposed. So in this video tutorial we're going to mainly look at the using directive and using static directive. Let's first have a look at the using directive. So as you are already aware, in every C# program, in every C# file, you need to import libraries, namespaces that you're using. For example, you can use a string builder which is found in the system.text namespace, and thus at the beginning of a file you can specify using system.text. Secondly, you can also create an alias from a namespace or a type. It's also called a using alias directive. Well, we mainly use aliases to avoid namespace collisions, so we'll see shortly in a quick demo. So first of all, when you create a console application or any C# program or application, at the beginning of each file you can specify C# directives. Okay, I mean C# using statements. Okay, so here you have several namespaces that you can specify at the beginning. Okay, but you can also specify those namespaces inside your root namespace, okay, but before the declaration of any type. Secondly, if you have a sub namespace, for example namespace sub namespace, okay, you can define them above the sub namespaces. Okay, but if you define the directives after a sub namespace, okay, the compiler will indicate an error. So bear in mind, when you have sub namespaces or types, you should be declaring them before your sub namespaces or types. Okay, for example, here you have a class program. You cannot declare your using directives after a type you have defined within your namespace. Okay, so it should be the first statement inside a namespace. Okay, so that's about the first point about using directives. Secondly, you can use aliases, okay, in your program. For example, I'll make use of system.text. okay, I can use an S for an alias. Okay, so consider the string builder class which is found in the system.text namespace. String builder SB is equal to new string builder. Okay, now I can also use an alias. Okay, If you see this now, the string builder class is no longer known. So to fix it, let's add the alias namespace. But this is just an introduction. Okay, so let me consider a real example how you can use aliases. Okay, so in the benefit of time, I've already created two classes. Okay, both name my class, but the first one is in the first namespace using directive.first namespace, and my second one, sorry, is in using directive.second namespace. Okay, now it may happen that I might have to use both of them in my class. So let's see what happens when we use both of the classes with the same name but in different namespaces. What happens? So using directive dot first namespace, okay, now in my main program, if I use my class, a class is called new my class. So here you will see that the compiler indicates an error. It says that my class is ambiguous reference. So to fix this ambiguous reference, we can make use of aliases. Okay, we can say like first, okay, and consider that this one, give it the alias of second. Okay, now we can use first dot my class, the new first my class, and if you want to use an instance of your my class found in the second namespace, we can say second dot my class is equal to new second dot my class. Okay, so this was a quick example of how you can tackle namespace collisions for the same type. Okay, one more thing about the system, I mean about aliases. So consider another namespace before we change topic. System.text.regular expressions. Okay, so this regular expression is a sub namespace of system.text. Okay, now if I make use of an alias here, okay, bear in mind you cannot use it in another declarative statement here in the using directive. Okay, it will show an error, and the potential fixes that the compiler proposes is to remove it, or you can fix it manually. Okay, so that's one thing. This is our first topic that we were covering about namespaces and using directives. Okay, so next we're going to have a look at using static directive. So this feature was introduced in C# 6.0. Okay, so what it does, it designates a type whose static members and nested types you can access without specifying a type name. Consider this is a syntax using the fully qualified type name. Consider the string that is null empty static method. Okay, so if you want to use it without specifying the string type, so you have to use the static directive, like using static system.string. Okay, and then you can either use this straightforward format in your codes to check is null or empty, for example, or you can use this one. Okay, but this is a matter of choice. Okay, so let's check quickly. So using system, using static system dot string. Let's check. So string, a variable, is equal to string dot empty. Okay, now if I do if is null or empty, you see IntelliSense already proposes that method. Okay, let's build. And run our program, and let's check. Okay, so it prints, sorry for the mistake, variable is empty. Okay, so that was about static directives, using static directives. So with using directives and static directives, the key points to remember is that the scope of using directive is limited to the source file in which it appears. Okay, so you cannot reference a directive and use it in another file. Okay, using directive can appear either at the beginning of a source file, before any namespace or a type definition, in any namespaces, but before any namespace or types declared in that namespace, like we saw in our demo. No aliases can be used in declarative declaring directive, so like we saw with the regular expression example. And using directive does not give you access to any namespace that are nested. Okay, like we saw with the regular expression. So thank you guys for watching. If you love the video, please subscribe. Thank you. Bye.